Welcome back to CBM Calling. I am delighted to be able to have this time with you and with my dear colleague and friend, Jennifer Lau. Jen, this is our 77th CBM Calling. And this morning I did something really weird. I went back and watched the very first one that you and I did on March 19th.
Yeah.
We were so green. We had no idea what we were doing. It was crazy. And
That's implying that we know what we're doing now, Terry.
yeah, that part hasn't changed, granted. But the funny thing is, obviously we had no idea what we were in for the last 26 weeks.
Yeah.
And at one point you said, I hope my house is quiet enough for this conversation. So is your house any quieter, and have the kids gone back to school yet?
It's a lot quieter now. I'm actually at the office. I know people who've watched the CBM callings will be like, that's not Jennifer's basement, because I've done all the other shows from my basement. But today I'm actually at the CBM office. So my house is pretty quiet because my son is actually at school today. It's his first day of school. He's in a very small school, so I feel okay about that. Whereas my daughter's still at home. So she's got the house nice and quiet for her to study online.
Excellent. Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. I'm actually in a very quiet place. I'm sitting in the historic First Baptist Church of Toronto.
Yes, of course. That's
And
where I got married, Terry.
Is it?
Yes, that's the church in which I got married.
Well, I could turn my camera and show you once again what it's like, but it's a very special place, and it's
Beautiful
nice.
place. Yes.
Jen, over the last 6 months, so much of our lives and our ministry has changed. You and I have both gone through a loss, although your loss is much more close than mine was. My dear friend and mentor, Bob Berry, passed away a couple of weeks ago, and your dad passed away. And I just want to express to you, on behalf of all of the CBM family, our love and affection and condolences, and pass it along to your mom as well.
Oh, thank you so much. No, I've really appreciated the support I've received from everyone in the CBM family. So I'm very grateful for that.
Well, you bet you can continue to count on our prayers. So give us a little rundown. What's been going on at CBM?
Yeah, so people might be wondering, is the staff back at the office? Well, not really. So I am here, but there's only about 6 of us here, and we are all distance. We all have our own individual office spaces here in this building, so we're pretty distanced, and we do wear masks in common spaces, so we are complying with what's happening here in Ontario. But it's nice to be able to collaborate on those, the one day a week that we do come in, to be able to see and work together in person again. And, we've gotten used to the new normal, of course, which is working from home. But I think our staff has done remarkably well. I had no idea that every one of our staff would be able to adapt to working from home, and as well as they have done over the last 6 months. So kudos to them, because they've all figured out how to do their jobs just as well from home in this time. Now, of course, for our field staff, it's been very different. So a lot of our field staff, as we've been hearing on other CBM callings, they are still in much more severe lockdown. So they have to do everything from home. They, in some countries, they can't even go out very much, maybe only once a week, like in Bolivia. So, the risk is much greater for our field staff. But again, they have found a way to keep monitoring the projects that they're overseeing, to connect with partners, to help care for people. They have been able to do all of that virtually. So it's just remarkable to me how they've been able to adapt. Really, I give them so much credit for being able to do that. And please continue to pray for them, because, of course, their safety is, utmost in our minds as well. So we do ask people to continue to pray for our field staff. And then for churches, Terry, it's very fitting that you're in a church today, because that is the question that we do get asked from some of our international partners is, are churches in Canada meeting again? And we are seeing some churches that are meeting again, especially in Atlantic Canada, where they have very few cases of coronavirus. So they are meeting more in person, but of course, everyone's taking precautions as well. Here in Toronto area, probably a little less so of meeting in person, but slowly we are seeing churches meeting again. So I think these are all good things to enjoy while we can, and we'll continue to hope for the best.
That's excellent. One of the things that we've been able to do for churches is to offer some resources to them, so that even when they're doing a video broadcast of their service, we've been able to have testimonies from some of our field staff, and some sermons that are online, and
sermons from you, Terry. they can get a sermon from you to show on Sunday.
2 people told me on Sunday, hey, you're preaching in our church this Sunday. And I thought, oh my gosh, I
Wow.
totally forgot.
So for churches that don't know about this, it's called Build Your Own Sunday. And there's all these resources. You can go on our website, cbm.org, and you can find under Build Your Own Sunday all kinds of things that you can plug in to your virtual service. Or even, if you're meeting in person again, you can use those for in-person worship services as well. So I know we really miss speaking in churches and visiting churches. But if you would like to have a CBM person at your church, you're having a mission focus on a Sunday, you can still have that. You can have that through our Build Your Own Sunday resources. So hope people will check that out.
Jen, one of the things that's really been an encouragement for us is that even as churches have had to find new ways to meet and to minister in their communities, we've been blessed by the encouragement, the prayers, and the financial support of churches and individuals across Canada over the last 6 months. It's really been a blessing at a time when the world has been facing just bewildering situations, and that's allowed us to respond. I mean, I'm overwhelmed by the response of our Canadian Baptist supporters and other supporters in the United States, even some overseas who have contributed to CBM's COVID-19 emergency relief fund. So far, we've dispersed over $300,000 in program support to our partners overseas, and we're still receiving a lot of requests and hoping to be able to shift a little bit into helping our partners develop resilience and rehabilitation post COVID-19. The other thing that I think I just can't help but express a profound gratitude to how people have supported the work in Lebanon after the Beirut explosion. I mean,
it exceeds our expectations, I would say, Terry, don't you think? It really has.
It really did, Jen. None of us could have imagined it. At a time when, having spoken to all of our field staff there and met on Zoom with our partners in Lebanon, to hear how dire the situation is, I have been so encouraged to hear how our Canadian supporters have responded, and CBM was part, through the Canadian Food Grains Bank, of the matching fund of the Canadian government. The charitable sector raised over $8 million, and it was unbelievable how those funds have come in. And so I'm really encouraged by what is happening in terms of the relief work that is taking place. I'm on a call tomorrow morning, Jen, with CFGB.
Okay, the Food Grains Bank.
With the Canadian Food Grains Bank. To talk about that. So that's been an encouragement as well.
Well, looking back, it's kind of interesting that the whole Lebanon crisis happened right when we were putting together this next issue of Mosaic, which is focused on crisis response. And in putting that issue together, I mean, it's been probably a year in the works, but in thinking through what was going to go in there, we really dug into, the history of how Canadian Baptists have responded in times of crisis around the world. And it's like there are incredible stories there. So we actually have entitled it a legacy of presence, because Canadian Baptists have been present in so many places whenever there has been need in times of emergency. So this is one of the things about COVID is it's made us adapt. So Mosaic is going to be online. We've always had online presence for our previous Mosaics, but you'd receive a nice printed copy. So this time around, we said, what, we might see if now people really want to do, maybe we'll look at Mosaic just online and not in a printed copy. I'm sure there's people watching that are like, no, please send me a printed copy.
You can photocopy one.
We will get you a printed copy. We really want a printed copy, but we think that more and more people have adapted to just being able to look at stuff online. And so we're trying it out. And we're also doing Legacy of Presence as an online publication. And so you are able to see both of those publications on our website, cbm.org. You can download it into your reader or on your tablet or wherever you want to read it, and you can access it that way. So let us know. I mean, I'm very curious to hear from people. Whenever I go to churches, there's people who will say, oh, Mosaic, I love Mosaic, I look forward to Mosaic. So I'm very curious for those people if they will still feel the same way if they don't get a printed copy in their hand. right? If they're reading it off their iPad instead, are they still going to feel that way? So I hope so. So yeah, let us know. Give us feedback.
While you mentioned that, Jen, I want to give a little shout out to our content and design team, including two people who are behind the cameras on this call with us right now, John Williams and Christine Gonzalez, who have done an amazing job for us in on the CBM Calling, but also their boss, Gord Brew, who puts together the Mosaic magazine and who put together this phenomenal timeline. Gord showed me an envelope that he found letters that were written in the 1930s. Do you want to say a word about those letters?
Yeah, we got this envelope, and I remember the day. It was back a few months before, and we were still working from the office, and we got this envelope, and it had these old letters inside, and it was from the Mathesons, who were missionaries who served in India with CBM in the 1930s. And so I think it was their daughter who had sent them, said she had found them and had sent them in. And when you read some of the text, like, it's amazing. Like, they reference Gandhi, that kind of thing, like things that are happening at that period of time. And it's so amazing to read kind of a bit of the history of, of course, Canadian Baptist presence in India, which is like a legacy into itself, what Canadian Baptist missionaries have done over the years in India. And so that, yeah, it was just, it was really what kind of kicked off this whole idea that, we would be able to do this account of what Canadian Baptists have done in times of crisis. And that was really one of the reasons that we had this idea, was from these great letters that we received.
I'm really excited about this new format because I think it's going to offer people the opportunity to share Mosaic instead of just leaving it like on a coffee table in their house. But they can pass around the link, and we're going to, on our website, there will be a little instruction video to show how to click through the link and read the articles. There's some great articles about Canadian Food Grains Bank, about our response in Northeast Kenya, in Haiti. This is the 10th anniversary of the devastating earthquake in Haiti. Bill Dick has written an article about the tsunami in Indonesia. The Mosaic magazine and that historic timeline. Now, I think I might have mentioned at the beginning, Jen, that this is the 77th episode of CBM Calling. And you and I both know that in the scriptures, the number 7 is a number that represents perfection. So we're going to invite the president of CBM's board, Heather Rumble-Peterson, to share some really perfect news with everyone. So just catch Heather's.
Thanks, Terry, for sharing this time with me today for this important announcement. Canadian Baptist Ministries Board of Directors announces that after an extensive search process, Jennifer Lau, CBM's current Associate Executive Director, has been appointed as the next Executive Director effective November 1, 2020. Jennifer served with CBM since 2002 in various roles, primarily focusing on providing the marketing strategy and direction for all of CBM's endeavors here in Canada. Most recently, Jennifer was appointed as Associate Executive Director in 2018, and she has given oversight to the organization's operations since then. In her time at CBM, Jennifer created CBM's magazine Mosaic, and she's traveled across Canada and to many countries around the world, seeking to connect Canadian Baptists to the people that CBM serves globally. She's continued to bring her deep faith in the Lord, her passion to serve the vulnerable, and her commitment to excellence, integrity, and skill in her areas of communications and strategic management, marketing, and fundraising, all to bear as a senior leader in the organization. I've seen firsthand that Jennifer brings to this position outstanding leadership capabilities and proven experience in working together with the global leaders and the churches in responding to the challenges of embracing a broken world with God's love. Her visionary leadership, her character, her involvement in overseeing global discipleship and church engagement uniquely positions her to bring Canadian Baptists along in this new role. I believe she is the person that God has called to help represent and lead our organization into the next decade. Please be in prayer for Jennifer and for CBM staff and the board of directors as we continue seeking God's leading for the organization. Congratulations, Jennifer. We're so pleased that you've agreed to continue to play an important role in the leadership of CBM into the future.
Jen, that is the best news. I am so delighted
Thank you.
about this appointment. I've worked with you since 2003. You started in the office at CBM a year before I came back from France. And just to watch you evolve and develop leadership skills, to see you assume more and more responsibility, to see the respect and loyalty that you have of our staff team and our Canadian partners is really thrilling. So I just want to tell you how delighted I am for this. And while I'm congratulating you, I also want to give a little shout out to our board. Under the leadership of Kaylee Rich, who's one of the representatives from Western Canada, Kaylee and the search team worked diligently, dealing with all the applicants, interviewing people, meeting, praying, soliciting interest and support, and then to narrow the process down and to finally recommend you to the board, and for the board to approve your appointment is really thrilling. So a big shout out to the board.
Yes.
And a bigger shout out to you.
Oh, thank you. You know what? It's been quite a journey. As you said, it's not like it's new. I've been here since 2002, which is kind of hard to believe. The world was a very different place in 2002, if you think about it back then. But Terry, I remember one of the very first time I met you. I don't know if you remember.
No.
I had to drive you to the airport. You were visiting from France, and you were just planning to come back permanently. And you had already been appointed into your new role as Director of International Partnerships. And they said, well, Terry's going to be in the office for a day, and somebody needs to drive him to the airport afterwards. So they asked me to do it. And I remember you sat in my car, and then you told me how important it was for us to have a better website. Which I thought was funny.
I started by complaining.
I thought it was funny because I was the communications manager. And I thought, I already know that. But I thought then, I think I'm going to like working with this guy. He's got good ideas.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so that was our first meeting. But
clearly we've made some giant steps there. And I also want to say, to come back to Mosaic, which we were talking about, you're the person, Mosaic was your brainchild. You're the one that came up with that plan. You and Lorena Zondo, Gord King, developed a plan around that. So kudos to you. And you've had such an impact already. And I'm so excited about what the future holds. What are you looking forward to, and what makes you nervous?
Oh, well, what am I looking forward to? Well, I have said it so many times, and I hope people realize every time I say it, I do mean it. I love working with our team here. I love the CBM family, and working with them. Every single person on this team is so amazing in their own way and what they contribute. And I just feel like there's so much opportunity for us to actually make an impact in the world. We see all the time places of hurt and brokenness, and for us to have the privilege of being able to actually have an impact in someone's life that way, I mean, that's a gift. That's not an exaggeration to say that really is a privilege to be able to work in God's work. And so, yeah, I look forward to that, to continuing that and seeing how that will continue to grow. What makes me nervous? Oh my goodness. I don't know. I don't know if you get nervous after 18 years. I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't know enough to get nervous about it, but
I'll send you a list of all the things that should make you nervous.
Probably. I think I'm probably a little nervous about figuring out how we're all going to continue coping with COVID, and like, just what is going to be the new normal after this? Is there ever going to be a time we can travel again? Like, travel has been such a big part of our work. Being able to visit our partners, that's a big part of how we express our solidarity with our partners, and always has been. And so, us not knowing when we're going to be able to travel again, I think is very uncertain, and especially for a lot of our field staff as well in their work. And not being able to go to churches and visit as much as we used to. I mean, I don't know if I'd say it makes me nervous, but it makes me a little disappointed, because I I think you and I both love going into churches and connecting, but I know our regional staff are connecting as best as they can during
That's
these
true.
times.
For sure.
For sure. And we're jealous of Randy because Randy has a lot more leeway to do that in Atlantic Canada than we do here in Ontario.
They have a bigger bubble than we do.
They have a much bigger bubble, but we look forward to that day when, for sure. I look forward to it, to the day I can go back and be visiting with churches again.
Jen, there's a million reasons why I'm excited about you becoming the executive director. But the one that I pointed out to our staff when we made this announcement is that in the history of CBM, we're 147 years old. You are the very first layperson to be the general secretary or the executive director of CBM. And I think that that's a huge milestone, especially at a time while we as an organization are investing more and more time and effort and staff resources into marketplace ministry and helping the laity. I hate that term, but you know what I'm referring to. Lay people see all of life as a calling to serve God in their vocations. And you did that by working in communications and marketing before you came to CBM, seeing your life as a calling and now living it out in this role. So I really commend you for that. But I don't want to lose sight of the fact that you also have a very tender pastor's heart. I spoke with one of our former staff last week who told me about a time in his life that he was really hurting and how just God put you at the right place at the right time to bring comfort to that person and to give them a sense of hope. And I thought, yeah, Jen is just the person that we need at this time when our staff and when our partners are looking for leadership. And I know that you're going to be able to bring that. So again, be assured of our prayers.
Thank you. But Terry, you didn't bring up the really important point, which several of our female colleagues have pointed out to me, that I will be the first woman, which seems absurd in 2020 that I will be the first woman. But I think it is meaningful for, especially for a lot of our female colleagues, to see that CBM actually believes in gender equity.
Absolutely.
And that's not a barrier to being a leader at CBM.
No. Absolutely.
I'm happy, very happy for that.
I'm really delighted for you as well, Jen. And I'm just so happy for the organization. And I'm looking forward to the day that you get to boss me around instead of me bossing you around.
So maybe some people don't know, Terry, you're not leaving CBM, because people might not have got that news. They're like, what's happening here? Terry's not ready to retire yet. He's not leaving CBM, but he's changing his role, right? You're changing your role, and we'll see. That'll roll out after you have a little bit of time off.
Thank you.
Time to enjoy with Heather and the family, and but we look forward to seeing what that's going to be like as well. But we get to continue working together.
Absolutely, great. Yeah, it's delightful. Jen, this wraps up our time together on CBM Calling. I want to thank everybody who's followed us. It's so good to know that people are caring and following us on CBM Calling. And if you have any questions about CBM, please don't hesitate to email us, and we'll be happy to fill in any of the blanks or answer any further questions that people might have. A week from today, we're going to be hearing from Bill and Janice Dick. The Dicks have been serving the Lord first in Indonesia, then they came back to Canada, and then they went back overseas to Bolivia, learned Spanish, and have been ministering there. And during the health crisis of COVID, they had to come back to Canada, and they are now continuing their work, but from Calgary. And we're going to be having a conversation with Bill and Janice next Tuesday. So thank you once again, Jen. It's been great to chat with you, and look forward to further opportunities. Another 77 CBM Callings.
Yes, that's right. We'll be back on episode 144.
Okay. Bye, everybody, and thank you so much.
Bye.